All right. Welcome to another edition of the Florida Daily Show. I got a good one today. I want to talk about social media. I want to talk about why we always got to go to the government to take care of all of our problems because parents are too weak, lame, whatever. They can't seem to monitor their own kids. And because if they can't monitor their own kids, then the government's got to get involved. When I want more parents involved all around YouTube, social media, and every time the government gets involved, the question is, where does all this go next? I promise you, I've covered this for years as a reporter, Lindsay Randall. This is where now it's going to be deemed what content is viewable and valuable for young people. And then once it goes from there, it's now, do we go after conservative talk radio? Do we go after speeches? Because if the left gets in control, that is a cluster mess what's going on by going after Facebook, Meta, and YouTube. So let me give a little bit of backdrop, and I'm going to get to it with our panel discussion. So this LA grand jury, and I understand there was another grand jury that said Facebook didn't do enough to lay out certain guardrails, so there would be no sexual perps talking to them and blah, blah, blah. Okay, I can get all of that. And then we've got a Florida bill, and we got other arguments is, well, we think the kids are too much focusing in front of a computer. I get that. My parents used to say, don't watch that much TV. Go read a book. But yet, what's the difference if I want to read a book for 3 hours or sit in front of a flipping computer screen for 3 hours if I'm learning? No one's ever answered that question. So you can tell I'm on a warpath today. So then we get the conversation. Well, it's not about live streaming. It may be about what you watch. Now, if you want to talk about that, Lindsay, I've got no problem. I don't have any problem with guardrails on ages and things like that. Can somebody please tell me what the end game that government wants to accomplish? I understand parents putting limitations. I agree with that. What is the end game that we want to do when it comes to social media, the ills of social media that also comes along with the benefits of social media?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. Very good points. There's got to be a balance of self-government and parents' rights. And that because we've been kind of on this parents' rights kind of track for so long with education. I feel like there's parents' rights with social media too, but they also within parent right. If you want your child on, or if you allow that on them on social media, that's one thing. But at the same time, there's got to be some sort of guardrails. I mean, social media, the executives we've talked about on the radio show, the Ed Dean radio show, they are our executives that they are on the record for saying that they are intentionally targeting children. They're intentionally trying to get children addicted to social media for various reasons. But it's really sinister. So for my children, they're not allowed on social media till they're 45.
How do you target kids if there is an age guideline that you can only acquire to get on social media at a certain age then?
Yeah. Well, that's, as well as I know, kids will work around that. If you say, okay, yeah, I'm 18 or whatever age it is, of course they can get around that if they really want to. That's no big deal. So there's got to be the parental responsibility, but I think that coupled with some sort of guardrail at the same time, I think that works in tandem.
Well, let me bring in our guest here, Ryan Cohn, who's been on my radio show for many years, even though he looks like he's like 19. Ryan Cohn is the chief strategist officer at Sachs Media out of Tallahassee, and I've had the pleasure of doing business with these guys and hanging out with them. Ryan, I'm all over the map today. You know me well. You can be able to keep up. So there was this, which is going to be an appeal coming up. I hope the appeals process wins for Facebook. I understand the parents aren't happy that Facebook hasn't done enough for what their kids may not watch. Well, first off, Facebook should not be the role model. They should not be the parent. That is the parent's job. So now they're going to come out. There's this one suit about the girl goes, well, I got addicted to social media. I got overweight, blah, blah, blah. I got psychological problems. What happened to the parents? That's what I want to know. So the lawsuit was against Facebook saying they didn't set up enough. They intentionally targeted young people. Well, dude, okay, if you look at the word addiction, it also means overreach. It also means I'm attached, I'm clinging. I'm attached to this great product over here. How do you like that? I mean, it's just a different meaning, but the addiction is such a bad word. We have algorithms. Men are addicted to certain sports. Women, I mean, not that the addiction is bad. Maybe it just depends on the, quote, addiction. And I did a bunch of statistics on my radio show, and I will get into all this coming up in a second, but there are ills of society today. Back in the 80s and 90s, how dare you watch that TV channel? So we had to put viewer discretion advised. Viewer discretion advised does not prevent somebody watching that. That's like saying, oh, my brakes went out in my car, but there's a stop sign at the end of the road, and that's going to take care of everything. All right? It just doesn't do that. So we've got these lawsuits that we want to put in certain parameters to deal things with children. Ryan, you follow this. I want to talk about also what people are watching for their news these days, okay? But the thing that I'm getting at, okay, is there ills to society? Are people being young, whatever, being too clingy to social media? That's fine. Then tell me, are they being too clingy because they should be in front of a computer screen, or does it depend on what they're watching? Nobody will tell me what their end, as I keep using the word their end game, what they really want to see happen.
And it's all about the content. At the end of the day, it's what they're watching. What are they watching? And frankly, for kids today, parents need to be vigilant. They need to pay close attention to what's on that screen, whether it's a computer or more likely it's on one of these right here. They need to be paying close attention. They need to be watching over their shoulders. They need to use the tools that are available. All of these platforms have tools to limit what can be watched by children. They've got parental controls, but how many parents actually go in and change the settings? How many of them actually understand what needs to go in, what kind of guardrails to put into place? They need to do their jobs, just like the social networks have a priority of making the right guardrails, or at least making those tools available to parents so that they can do their job best.
So, Lindsay, on my morning show, by the way, which is heard, self-plug, on Talk Radio WBOB, syndicated throughout Florida. You can listen to WBOB.com, mornings from 6 to 9. Here we go. So I hear what some parents are saying. Oh, Ed, the statistics, cyberbullying is going up. Don't deny that, okay? Teen rate, suicide, and blah, blah, blah. You know what I did? So Lindsay was on with me on the morning show. And Lindsay, I looked at the statistics in the 80s and 90s. We had a peak of drug use, or excuse me, a peak of suicides going up because of family instability, maybe too many divorces. We had alcohol, all this other stuff. Went down in the 90s, peaked back up from 2007 to 2021. This is the CDC's own numbers, if you buy into what they say. And then actually, as of now, the numbers are on the decline. So wait a second. If there's more people watching social media, the suicide, no, more people on social media, but the suicide rate is going down. I understand about the bullying, but Lindsay, your kids are on drugs. They're hanging out with the wrong crowd. They're smoking pot, blah, blah. But they're in front of a computer screen, not talking to a sexual perv. You can't get all of the above. I'd rather take the computer screen than all the other bad elements in society out there. I mean, there isn't a one silver bullet to fix this, unless it's, as Ryan said, to get more parents involved.
There's no silver bullet for sure. But at the same time, you're swapping one problem with the other. Now you're having children where, especially young girls, the rates of anxiety and depression are skyrocketing. You don't have children interacting like they were. Teenagers aren't getting together. I mean, I remember going to parties growing up, and now kids don't do that because they stay in front of these
The only
stupid
party
things.
you were at was a Christmas party. Trust me. But go ahead.
I love a good Christmas party. Don't knock Christmas or Jesus. Okay, Ed. But anyways, so I think that we're trading those, and kids, they need to be out on the street playing. They need to be interacting with other children, and this is teenagers too. While all these other things might be going down, like drinking and doing drugs and all those things, and even teen pregnancy is going down. That's because kids aren't getting together anymore. They're staying in front of their screens, which I think is detrimental in a different way. When you think about getting out in the real world, where you're talking about getting a job, you have to look at people in the eye. You actually have to have a conversation with a human being in an office or at the job site. How in the world are they going to do that when they've been essentially hamstrung by these devices?
You bring up a good point, Ryan, as we're jumping all over the map today. We did a story at FloridaDaily.com about Gen Z, your age group, Ryan, all you flipping people in your 20s. So the bosses have said, when they were doing a survey, some of these hiring groups, they interviewed over 1,000 bosses. We did the story. the majority of bosses said they got to hire Gen Z. The productivity was way down because Lindsay just said something interesting. They couldn't get off their freaking phone out there. I get all of that. So what do? Hey, stop doing the phone. Okay, I get all, I'm with you on all that. But Ryan, you said something interesting. The parents have got to get involved. Everything else out there, I can sit and put limitations. Do we need to have phones at our school? Probably not. We can get into the discussion of AI with education. That might be a little bit better down the road. Who knows? But parents need to become more involved. And yet the attitude is, well, if the parents aren't there, then the government needs to get involved. By the way, the number one thing that people use suicide from is a gun. Does that mean I need to go out and blame the gun manufacturers because somebody used the gun that should not have been used? If that happens because your kid was on social media, so now I go blame Facebook because that's what they're supposed to do, is to keep people addicted, like the hunting sports channel on YouTube. And by the way, I promise you, Ryan, I'm getting you in here. They threw in YouTube in this lawsuit. I watch YouTube. I want the algorithms to go to, I hate to say it, professional wrestling, Florida State Seminoles football game, Nick Hubert, Florida Gators, whatever, hunting, everything. I want the algorithms to go that way. And yet, is it, as you said, Ryan, should it be more about the content? And yet they went after YouTube because more kids were watching YouTube videos. This stuff doesn't make sense. That is the role of YouTube.
I will say this. When we talk about social media and the addiction issues, social media, by its nature, that's about connecting. That's about making friends. That's about building and retaining relationships. That's a good thing. When social media is actually social, we're in a much better place. The problem is the unsocial media. And I will say YouTube is in that. It's the YouTube, it's TikTok, it's anything where basically there's a lack of a social component where you're sitting back and you're just watching. You're watching the content and it auto plays the next video and it sends you down the rabbit hole. And it's one thing when it's about sports or hunting or whatever it might be. It's another, though, when you're talking about radicalized content, when you've got crazy pundits out there who just, couldn't hold a candle to you, Ed. You get the people who are saying such wacky stuff and suddenly you look over your kids' shoulders and you're like, what are you watching here? This is ridiculous.
Hold on. Lindsay, Ryan, you're brilliant, man. So Ryan, who's got a lovely family, if your kids were getting into, like, let's say YouTube for kids or Facebook for kids, which I think would be great. I know you, because I see all your Facebook, you're constantly involved with the family. You would monitor that chat room. By the way, chat rooms are fun because now you can talk about the goofiest stuff. Who's the best professional wrestler? Who's the best politician? What's the best video game? As long as there's no sex and nothing involved, I don't have a problem with that. But Ryan said something, Lindsay. He's like, I would rather go, Ryan, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'd rather have something like an interaction with, like, the video games where people can talk and talk smack instead of just sitting there in front of a computer where there
just
is
consuming.
no one-on-one. Yeah, I didn't even talk that thing right
now. Just becoming a consumer instead of actually participating. I completely agree, Ryan. I think what is challenging as a parent is just knowing that you don't know what content's going to come up and what content is going to be playing next, like Ryan was talking about. And so you might be that rabbit hole can get really dark really easily. And it could be about, nothing radicalized. It could just be about, you need to put, makeup on now as a sixth grader. And that now, I mean, it's been proven that the Instagram, when there's a child that has their phone, they take a selfie, and then when they redo the selfie because they don't like it, instantly an ad comes up about makeup. And so, I mean, there's a reason why my sixth grader and my fourth grader are upset. They're not on social media. They're obsessed with all these makeup companies, Sephora and Ulta. I didn't even know about makeup when I was in fourth grade and sixth grade. And it's not because of them necessarily what they're watching, but it's their friends are on social media. A couple years ago, there was a little girl in their class, fourth grader, who had her own YouTube channel. Her own YouTube channel as a 9 or 10-year-old. That is absurd. I could not believe it.
Oh,
we
making money.
Yeah, right. Right. So at our school, at Cornerstone Classical Academy, our students actually have to lock their phones up every single day in a locker. So they have there's a slot that they put their locker, they put their phone in. Ed, you've seen it in our school.
Right.
And they are completely phone free. They don't have the smartwatches either, completely phone free. This is the last time in their lives they're going to be free from this horribleness, which I think is like a noose around our neck for all of us. That's the last time. And then when they come out of school, they get it back. And that eliminates so much. So as a school, it's a serious problem with social media.
Right.
Lynn, and let me just jump in on this because, I've got 2 kids also, and I see it. And we banned YouTube in our house. So, we said, hey, guess what? YouTube is broken. It's gone now. And because I saw with my kids, whether it was my younger one who would just watch nonstop unboxing videos and suddenly go, I want to buy this toy. I want to buy that toy. I want this one. And it's like, you don't need all the toys. You have them all already, but they're selling to you. On the flip side, I've also got a 4th grader, and we let her play Roblox. Roblox has taken a lot of, there's been a lot of talk about the dangers of it. We've gone in, we've locked it down. No chat, no one she can talk to on there. And she goes in and she plays with her friends. And here's what she does. We let her use Facebook Messenger for kids. We know exactly who she talks to. We approve it. She connects with all of them. And so what she'll do is she'll call her best friend on Facebook Messenger for kids. They'll start a voice conversation there. And then they figured out that they could switch apps, go to Roblox, and then they're playing together. That right there, that's a social interaction. She's talking with her friends. They're playing a game together. And I see the difference in my kids' behaviors when they're doing something like that versus acting like mindless zombies watching YouTube or TikTok videos. And it is night and day.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't realize all the video games that these guys could join a chat room and talk smack like it was the WWE. Ryan, here was another thing that Lindsay and myself were talking about on my radio show, and we talked with some of the other guests. And I just seen things my years as a reporter here in Florida where it goes from here, and instead of going a few inches, it went several feet. Like, well, let's get an agenda. Let's put our feet in the water. Next thing you know, we're waist deep on some, whether it's from the left or from the right. And something you had said, because I love the way you bring these things up, you really monitor, like Lindsay, you monitor a lot of this. But one of the things that the lawsuit, there was 2 of them against Meta and YouTube, and then the other one was about YouTube. Well, kids watching certain content. Wait, now I want the government to tell me what is appropriate for certain content. For example, if you were to sit back and let's say MAGA world, or you had the far left and conservative, and let's say that a MAGA world, would you have a problem of young kids watching whatever show on MTV? Oh, yeah. But if you wanted the MAGA world, if a young kid was to watch, a teenager, videos of Trump and right side broadcasting and conservative, nobody would have a problem with that. You get what? So it's in the eye of the beholder. And what I'm saying is that if you're a member of the left, which I am not, but you want your kids watching PBS and NPR and things of Bernie Sanders Senate floor speeches and just boring to death, you have every right to do that. The thing is that, well, it's about the content. See, this is where I'm going this, Ryan. Who's going to decide what content I believe that my kids should watch? Because, Ryan, if that's the case and Democrats get in office, Republicans get in office, now are they going to try to decide through legislation what we deem as hate speech and what is the right content for people to watch? I'm telling you, this is where it's going.
Is hate speech a problem? Absolutely. Where's that line? And that's where I really think what you're getting at is like, where's that line? And, one person's hate speech is another person's normal news coverage.
That's great.
And I think there are instances, there are clear, it's, what they say is, the old, yelling fire in a crowded theater. You can't do it. There is content like that where you say, hey, look, what was it? The old definition of pornography is I'll know it when I see it. I don't know that everyone, unfortunately, today knows it when they see it. And that's where it gets tricky. There is a gray area here.
Yeah, Ryan, so question for you. How do you think, especially when it comes to social media, what do you think some of the solutions would be? As a parent, we're both parents. I think we can kind of figure that out. But how do we communicate to the parents what's really going on? Because I read Jonathan Haidt's book, Anxious Generation, which was pretty life-changing for me when I read it.
Eye-opening.
So definitely eye-opening. So what do we do on the parent side? And then what are some solutions for these, companies such as Facebook?
For parents, it's all about vigilance. As what we've talked about, you have to know what your kids are watching, and you have to be you can't just sit back and say, oh yeah, go do whatever you want. It's the equivalent of like, hey, go play outside, and if you end up in at the trash dump or on a construction site, and you'll learn some lessons there. No, you say, hey, look, go outside, go play with your friends, but I need to know where you are. I need to know what you're doing. At least, I don't want to be overwhelmed. I don't want to be overbearing. I want you to learn to have freedom, but there's got to be some control in there. There has to be some vigilance, some awareness, and being the adult in the room to say, maybe you shouldn't. I don't like how you're acting. You're having trouble going to sleep. You're not doing your homework. You're acting out. It's time to say no more YouTube, no more TikTok, no more social media. You got to put your foot down there. On the social media side, on the publisher side, I think there have to be some clear but very objective guardrails. Here's what's allowed, here's what's not. And I like what X has done. I like what Elon Musk has done with X, where basically you put just about everything out there and you offer a disclaimer if needed. You can have a counterpoint to the point there so that people can make up their own minds. Issue though with some of that with kids is that going to work? And that's where it gets a little tricky. I don't know that we have the perfect answer yet.
Well, and I think, I agree with all that. I think also the real big problem is just the addiction part for these kids. And so it's rewiring their brain, their neural pathways in their brain. And that's a real problem as you're so vulnerable when you're growing up, and your frontal lobe in your brain doesn't fully develop till 25, probably 45, 50 for Ed Dean. But other than that, everybody else is 25.
There's still time.
But anyways, so that's what my question is just, on that front, how do we combat that? Because I don't know, just for my own kids and myself.
Hurry up, answer this. I got 20 other questions I got to ask you, but go ahead.
Yeah, I just say, we talk about addiction. I think so much of it, especially with kids, is overstimulation.
Exactly.
We're used to a world, when we were growing up, we didn't have this. It wasn't the constant bombardment of more and more and something new and it was okay to be bored. My kids are like, oh, I'm bored. You know what? Be bored. It's okay to be bored.
Yes. I love it. When I hear my kids say that, I'm like, that is good. Go find something to do. Not on a screen.
No, actually, that's not a good thing to say at the workplace. Okay. Well, anyway, hey, Ryan, let me ask you a couple quick questions. So every couple of months at FloridaDaily.com, we'll do a good media article. Like we just did one on sports. Sports radio's starting to up pretty good. They expect sports radio and sports TV on apps. Okay. Not so much on TV, but like on apps on your cell phones. That number is going to go up because why? The betting has just become a big issue. Okay. Talk radio, which, I dominate here in the state of Florida, still the biggest medium for people to get their news. You got podcasts, everything else. I saw I think we covered this on the radio show. We were talking about this the other day. YouTube is still the go-to. People watch for this because you can see all sorts of things. And then it was like Facebook, and then X and Instagram are at the bottom. where do you see, I don't care if it's left or right, where are a lot of people getting their news? Are they done with watching a lot of TV? They watch us, they read us online, talk radio. Where are you knowing it as you see it in your numbers? Where are a lot of people getting the news, whether it's Area 51 podcast or whatever, where are they watching it or listening for it?
There are some pretty stark age differences here. When you're talking about older audiences, really the Ed Dean crowd, and I'm not talking your audience, I'm talking you specifically. The gray hair got, that.
Oh, I got no gray hair on here.
There you go. There you go.
How do I get gray beard? But go ahead.
So cable TV, the Fox News, the CNNs, those are still very popular. Online, very much so. Facebook is a big deal there. Younger, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, that's where they're getting their news. That's a big deal right now.
If you were running a successful political campaign, or let's say, and I think you would say it's all of the above, which I would get as a media guy. You would focus on this. If you wanted to hit like Republican or Democratic primary voters, to me on a social media, I would assume Facebook's the way to go, right?
Facebook's got 3.2 billion users with a B globally. Wow. I mean, it's still, I feel like we've written off Facebook time and time again, but at the end of the day, Facebook, I've described Facebook for years as like a utility. They're a utility company. They've got you may not love Facebook, but you're there.
It's almost like a loveless.
It's almost like a loveless marriage. Your stuff is there. You've got 20 years of a relationship, but your friends are there. Your pictures, like I can't give it up. Fine, but I don't love it. But I'm still going to use it.
Is X considered more inside baseball for a lot of people like us who are hardcore follow the politics? That's how it's described as, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tenth of the size overall, of what Meta has built with Facebook and Instagram and all of their different tools, threads. But X is really popular though with breaking news. That's where you're going to get that's where you go for unfiltered information the second it happens. News, sports, still very much go to on X.
And our numbers at Florida Daily, because I know you've monitored them, we got big numbers because we've been around since 2018. Listen, when they had Sirius XM, which I'm a big subscriber to, by the way, that's going to end terrestrial radio. I mean, it's kind of funny. I've got more people telling me, is there really a need for like adult contemporary or hip hop normal radio stations when you got Sirius XM? That's a great question. But on talk radio, that seems that doesn't go anywhere because we're on regular radio, not Sirius XM. So that's not going anywhere. But outlets like Florida Daily and things like that, we've put a lot of competition to the Miami Herald and the Tallahassee Democrat. We've created all that competition. But the newspaper, it's still there. But are we still seeing people like, I'm a big fan of the Sun Sentinel. I'm not a fan, maybe their politics, the editorials. I just think they do a good job reporting news. The Sun Sentinel is a great publication. I've always said before, we used to learn this in journalism school, covering a story and reporting it are two different things. I think a lot of people do a better job covering, but how they report it is you like that one, Lindsay, you can use it. How they report it is differently out there. And are we still seeing the news driven more of the main legacy media through the websites? Are they still holding their numbers there?
I mean, definitely. I think there's only one market in Florida that has seen print circulation of a newspaper grow, and that's the Villages, for good reason. Well, yeah. Everywhere else has been the shift online. And that's really what, I mean, you're talking about digital, everything is digital subscriptions. But if the information that is getting published by, and I think this is the big problem that many newspapers have gone through, they publish the same information that you can get anywhere else. Yeah. And what they really need to be doing is focusing on original content. And it's very similar to what you do with Florida Daily. Original content, original reporting, telling something that no one else has covered in just the same kind of way. And in many cases, I mean, you've done such a great job. I feel like I hear this every week, like Ed Dean just broke a news story. Like, wow, Ed Dean keeps breaking that. And that's a big deal.
like we got. Listen, my editor Matt O'Hearn. I talked to Ryan. I was telling Ryan about this. I said we did a story. We have like some months over 1 million, 1.3, 1.4, but now it gets bigger because all the stations carrying the show, a Florida Daily, and that number doesn't include my radio show. But Lindsay, we did a story like Florida's favorite dog, America's favorite breed. We did it on a Saturday, so the readership is big. But Saturday the weekend's kind of. Matt O'Hearn goes, "Oh yeah, we've already like 30,000 hits in like the last hour of people commenting who their favorite dog is." It was a different
so
story.
random.
Yeah, but
Yes.
Ryan, thank you. Seriously, thank you for saying that, because at our publication, we'll tell you some of the scams. I mean, scams are a hot story of what's going on. Sometimes we tell the best consumer stories. What's the best car that under 30,000 that people can get a hold of? Or I like doing like we even did a story from one of the more liberal groups out there. But they sent us where they did a study, and we said one of the more liberal groups, Hospital Watch, said that all of these states that are taking advantage of overcharging and overbilling, we like the story, but we let them know who it is. They probably wouldn't give me a lot of time, but we covered the story. But people like that. It's just different. They want to read about, hey, what scams are going on with my automobiles or with the resorts, or, I mean, they like that. We covered a lot of politics, but it's mostly we're finding a lot of consumer stories are selling as they should, Ryan, like studies and polls. People like that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the latest research data, I mean, that's why we've got an in-house research department where we are constantly churning out survey results and the latest data. I mean, yeah, it's so important to be able to show like, hey, when you've got your finger on the pulse of what people are doing, what they're seeing, what they think, and how they're changing their behaviors. I mean, that's so telling today. And that's a part of the story that doesn't get covered enough, but it's so important. And I'll just say, bringing back to what you were saying about sports before, Netflix has invested millions and millions of dollars recently in sports podcasts, bringing some of the bigger names onto Netflix. And you notice, though, that they're doing very little in terms of live sports.
Right.
But they know that there's a huge interest. They could spend really big to try to get, Formula One or the NBA or NFL. But you know what? They know that actually people may tune in for this live sport event, but they want to hear people talk about it. They want the pundits. They want the original voices. They want the Ed Dean of sports saying really interesting stuff.
I want to have a live gambling ticker. I want to be like Disney, those guys, Lindsay at the top, right? So, all right, listen. Ryan Cohn, look at you, dude. I love you. I love it when you come on. You really, man, you make a lot of sense. I mean that.
Thanks,
so Ryan Cohn, chief strategist. Don't you like that? Officer at Sachs Media. How about it? All right, Ryan, thanks for coming on today, brother.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Lindsay. Great to see you.
All right, man. Yeah.
You too.
I would have kept him on longer if he was going to compliment me more, but he suddenly stopped.
I think he complimented you enough. You've reached your cap today.
This whole social media thing, there's a simple answer. We've got to get more parents involved. Well, Ed, hey, guess what? There's the good with the bad. And yes, I'm sorry. I get it, Lindsay. You are a superwoman. You're super mom. It's more work. I get it.
It's much more work.
I get it.
I mean, how many times do I see it? And listen, I do not judge. I really, really do not judge. But I see kids sitting in the grocery cart with their mom's phone, and they're not looking around. They're not looking at the groceries. They're
But at least they ain't running at the mouth and crying and asking, "Are we done yet?"
Exactly. I'm like, go to Publix, get a free cookie. That'll last for 30 seconds. But I mean, I understand. But I think that's programming kids too to want that as a pacifier when they're really little, and then that continues. And then with social media, that only makes the issue worse.
Lindsay Randall, always great topics we do on here. And we got a lot
fun.
More. Don't forget to read all of our stuff at floridadaily.com. Again, everything is right there with the Florida Daily Show. By the way, go to YouTube. Like, we don't
YouTube.
That's right. Go to YouTube, like, subscribe our page. It's all there at floridadaily.com. And that's all. We don't charge you. We don't send you any emails. We don't do that stuff that bother you. So, all right, back again. Florida Daily Show right here at floridadaily.com.